Welcome back to Monster Tamer, a 2D Pokemon-like RPG created Phaser 3. Previously, we worked on adding in animations for our monsters' attacks. If you missed the previous videos, there'll be links in the video description to a source code up to this point, as well as the complete source code for this video. There'll also be a link to the previous videos if you'd like to catch up, so let's get started. Alright, so previously we went ahead and created our attack class, and we created a class for our Ice Shard attack. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do the same thing for our slash attack. So this is going to use those assets we imported in our last video. So to do this, what we're going to go ahead and do is we'll come into our battle or attack subfolder, and let's make a new file, and we're going to call this slash.js. And so inside here, we'll go ahead and create our class. So we're going to do export class, and we will do slash. This will extends our attack class. And what we'll do is let's pop open our Ice Shard class, and we're going to go ahead and copy our constructor code because we'll have the same type of parameters. And then what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and copy our imports. And so next what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and override our attack game object similar to what we did in our Ice Shard class. So we'll go ahead and add in our protected attack game object. Instead of being a sprite, this is going to be our container. And so for our slash attack, what we're going to end up doing is we are going to create a game object. We're going to create 3 game objects. So for our slash attack, it is a single slash. So if we go ahead and go into our slash PNG real quick, we'll see we just have this simple slash right here. And we want to look like that we're slashing with our 3 claws. And so what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and create 3 game objects for our 3 claws. And so to keep track of those objects, what we're going to go ahead and do is copy this. Actually, copy the whole block. And we're going to say attack game object. We'll do 1. We'll change this to a sprite. And then what we'll do is we will copy, and we'll do that 2 more times. So we'll have 2 and 3. All right, and then what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to create our game objects, and we need to create our animations similar to like what we did in our Ice Shard class. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this block of code here for our create animations, and we'll paste that over into our slash.js file. And then we just need to go ahead and update our key. So for our attack, we will go ahead and use slash as our key. And then for generating our frame numbers, we want to go ahead and reference our slash asset to generate those. For our frame rate, we're going to bump that down to 4, so it'll be a little bit faster. All right, so next what we want to do is we want to go ahead and actually create our game object. So let's copy this block of code from Ice Shard, and we will go ahead and paste that into our slash.js. And then we go ahead and update our reference. This can be attack game object 1. And then what we'll do is we'll do our scene, our add, we'll have our sprite, and then what we need to do is update our positioning. So for our positioning, we are going to position our game container using our position X, position Y that was provided to the class, and then we'll position our game objects relative to that container. So for our X and Y, that means we're going to do 0, 0 for our first game object. Then we need to go ahead and update our assets. So this will be our slash, and we will do 0 for our frame. We'll do 0.5. We will keep our scaling. And then instead of setting our alpha to 0, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove that, and we'll set our alpha on our container itself. So then what we need to do is we're going to create 2 more slash attacks. So let's go ahead and create 2 more game objects, and then we'll do 2. We will do 3. Then for our position, what we're going to do is we're going to move this one over by 30 pixels, and we'll move this one over by negative 30 pixels. And we'll keep the same Y value for 0 and same asset frames. And then what we need to do is create our container. So we'll do our attack game object. We'll equal this.scene.add.container. And then we need to do our position. So we'll do this. Position.x, this position.y, and now if there's any children, which we have 3 of them, so we'll add in our attack game object 1, 2, and 3, and we'll go ahead and copy this, and we'll paste it 2 more times. We'll do 2, and we'll do 3. Then if we come up here, we just need to fix this real quick. It should be attack object 3, not 13. All right, then real quick, what we're going to do, let's go ahead and set our alpha to 0, so then that way our container is not visible when we create our instance of our attack. So our next thing we want to do is we need to go ahead and add in our play animation method. So what we're going to do is let's come to our ishard.js file. We're going to copy that whole block of code and let's go ahead and paste that below our constructor. And so what we need to do is we need to go ahead and play our animation for all three of our game objects that we created. So if we come down here, instead of attack game object, we'll do attack game object 1, and we don't want to do ice shard. We want to do our slash animation. And we will copy this and we'll paste it and we'll do 2 and 3. And then we need to go ahead and update our event listener. So we're going to get rid of this one here. So we only needed to play one animation this time. And so we'll have our attack game object 1 once, and we want our animation key complete plus our attack asset keys slash event fires. Then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and say our animation playing is false, and then we need to change. We don't need to do set frame on our container. We want to do set alpha on the container, but then we want to go ahead and set frame on each of our game objects. So we'll have our game object 1, we'll call set frame, and we'll set this to 0. And we'll copy this code. We'll do our other two game objects as well. And we'll go ahead and save. That should wrap up our slash attack. So what we should be able to do is go ahead and test this. If we jump over to our battle scene, what we'll do is let's replace our ice shard with slash. We'll keep the same position, and then we'll call attack play animation. So if we go ahead and come over to our scene, let's go ahead and refresh. And we'll see right away that our claw attack goes ahead and plays, and we get this nice attack here. All right, so now that we have both of our attacks created and our animations working, what we need to do next is we need to connect our attacks to our battle scene. And instead of connecting them directly in where we would create an instance of our ice shard attack and our slash attack in our battle scene, we're going to abstract this away to a new class called the attack manager. And the reason for that is because as we add more data to our game and more monsters, we're going to start seeing a variety of attacks. And so right now, each monster only has one attack, but typically there would be 4 attacks they could choose from once your monster knows 4 moves. And so with these being dynamic per monster, we would need to be able to create those and create the objects with the appropriate properties on the fly. And by having all this in our battle scene, it's going to bloat it because we'll have a bunch of different attacks. Instead, we'll create this attack manager class that'll be responsible for constructing our objects that we need, as well as assigning the position based on who is doing the attacking. And so to go ahead and abstract this away, let's come back to our code and let's go ahead and make a new class. Under our battle attacks subfolder, we're going to go ahead and make a file called attack manager.js, and let's go ahead and export our class attack manager, and let's go ahead and add in our constructor. And so for our constructor, we'll need our phaser scene so we know which scene to add our game objects to, and we'll go ahead and add in our skip battle animations here so we'll know if we need to go ahead and skip the animation. And so what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and assign these to our properties. So we're going to do this. We'll have a private property called scene. We'll assign scene to that. We'll also do the same thing for skip battle animations. So we'll have our private property and we'll set it to that. Let's go ahead and add those to our class. All right, and so for our attack manager, what we need to do is we need to add a public method to our class. And this method is going to be responsible for taking in what attack we want to use and who is the target of that attack. So which monster is going to receive that. And so what we'll do is we're going to call this play attack animation. And we will take in an attack, a target, and we will also take in a callback. So then that way when the animation's finished, we can go ahead and invoke our callback. And then what we'll do right away is we're going to check if our skip battle animations is set. So we're going to wrap that in an if statement. And if it is true, we are not going to go ahead and play our animation. Instead, we will do our callback right away, and then we'll go ahead and return early. All right, and then so for our target, that's going to be used to determine where the position of our game object needs to be created at. So if the target is the enemy, it'll be over our one game object, versus if it's the player, it'll be over here. And so what we'll do is we're just going to add a comment, say if attack target is enemy, then we'll go ahead and set our X value equal to 745. And we will also do the same thing with our Y, and we'll set this to 140. Now, if our target is equal to our player, then what we'd want to do is update these values. So our X would be equal to 256, and our Y would be equal to 344. And then so with our position, the next thing we need to do is go ahead and determine which attack is being used, and then go ahead and create that instance. And so to do that, we'll have a switch statement, and inside our switch statement, we will go ahead and go through the attack that was provided. And so for our switch statement, we need to know what are the available attacks that can be used. All right, and so to know which attacks that should be used, what we'll do is we'll make a new object, and this is going to be our enum of our available attacks. So under our attacks subfolder, let's go ahead and make a new file. We're going to call this attack keys.js. And we're going to do similar logic that we do for our direction. So let's go under common. Let's copy this logic here. We'll paste that into attack keys. And we're going to call this attack keys for our type, our enum. And then we will have attack keys. And so we'll update our type def here. And then so for our values, this is just going to be ice shard. And then we will have slash. And then what we need to do is let's change this to attack keys. We'll fix that there. All right, so because now we're creating an object, an enum of our available values for attacks, we actually need to update our type def for our attacks. So right now, if we go into our types and we go into our typedef.js, for our animation names that can be used, we want those animation names to actually match this attack key here, because currently we're using the source of we're using our asset name, but in reality some of our assets might have some of our attacks might use multiple assets. And so a good example is our ice shard. We only have one ice shard attack. We have multiple keys that make that up. And so what we'll do is we're going to update our animation name to actually use our attack keys value. So we'll go ahead and change this to attack keys. All right, so now that we have our new enum, let's jump over to our attack manager. We'll go back to our switch statement, and now we're going to go ahead and add our case statements for our attack keys. So for our attack keys, we will have our ice shard first, and let's go ahead and add in our break statement. We'll go ahead and do our case. We'll do our attack keys and our slash. We'll add in our break, and then let's go ahead and add in our default with the exhaustive guard we've been using. So with our exhaustive guard, we will go through attack. So then for each of our case statements, what we want to do is we need to create an instance of our attack class. And so when we do this, we don't want to create a new instance every time our play attack animation method is called. Instead, we only want to have one instance of our class, because since we only have the attack go off one time, we can hide it and then reuse that instance without having to recreate them a bunch of times. So what we're going to do is inside each of our cases, we're going to have an if statement, and we'll see if we already have an instance of our attack that's been created. And so to do that, we're going to say if this is not defined, and so we're going to add a new property. We're going to call this ice shard attack. And if this ice shard attack has not already been defined, then we will go ahead and create it now. So we'll have our ice shard attack. We're going to set that equal to a new ice shard instance. And so our instance will need our scene. So we need to reference our scene. And then we need our X and Y property based on the values we set up here. And so real quick, let's come to the top of our class, and we will define this, and let's go do one for our slash attack as well. So now if we come back down here, so then what we'll want to do outside our if statement is we're going to go ahead and update the position on our game object. So in case we already had an instance of our ice shard attack, what we want to do is go ahead and update that position in case it was in the other position at the other time. So we'll do our ice shard attack. We need to get a reference to the game object property, and then we need to call set position. And we're going to go ahead and do X and Y. And then what we'll need to do is we need to call our play animation method. And then that way we can go ahead and play our attack animation. And we'll go ahead and provide our callback that was provided. And then what we're going to do real quick is we just need to do similar type of logic for our slash. So let's copy this logic here. We'll come down to slash, and we just need to change this to our slash attack. And this will be a new instance of slash. And we will update our position and go ahead and play our animation. All right, so what we'll do is let's go ahead and add in our types real quick. So we're going to come to the top of our class, and we'll go ahead and add in our type for our scene. So this will be a phaser.scene. Let's copy this, and we're just going to paste this above each of these, and we'll update our type. And so skip battle animations will be a Boolean. Our ice shard attack will be our ice shard, and our slash attack will be the slash class. Then we'll come down to our play attack animation method, and we'll go ahead and add those in. So attack, this will be our attack keys. And then our target will go ahead and be a string. And then callback will be a function that returns nothing. And then for our method, we return nothing as well. All right, so the last thing we're going to go ahead and do in our attack manager class is we're going to go ahead and update our target to also have an enum. So then that way we have two defined strings that we can go ahead and reference. So let's come to the top of our class, and actually let's go to attack keys. Let's copy this block of code here, and then inside our attack manager, we're going to change this to attack target, and this will be player, or it will be the enemy. And then we'll go ahead and do this, and we'll do that. And then let's update our reference. So we'll have attack target, and we will do attack target, and attack target for our enum. All right, so if we come back down to our method, let's change our target to attack target. And then so we can change this to attack target and player. All right, so now the last thing we need to do is we actually need to create an instance of our attack manager and our battle scene, and then we can tie everything together. So let's jump over to our battle scene. We'll come to the top of our class, and what we'll want to do is let's add a new property for our attack manager. So we're going to call this attack manager, and for our type, this will be our attack manager. So we'll have attack manager. And then we need to go ahead and create our instance. So if we come down to the bottom of our create method, right after we create our state machine, let's go ahead and do our create. We will do our attack manager will equal a new attack manager. And then we get our instance. And we'll go ahead and pass in this for our scene. And then for skipping battle animations, that's going to reference our global config. And real quick, so it looks like something was wrong with our configuration. If we jump over here, yes, our constructor. So let's go ahead and add in our types for that real quick. So we'll have phaser.scene, and we will have this be set to a Boolean. All right, and let's go ahead and fix our imports. So we need to add .js to each of our files. All right, so now our scene should refresh, and it looks like it's working properly. Okay, so now let's go ahead and clean up our slash attack that we had in our scene. We won't need a direct reference. And let's go ahead and clean up our imports. And then what we'll want to do is we need to go into our state machine, and when our enemy and our player monsters attack, that's when we'll go ahead and reference our attack manager. So let's go ahead and go to our player attack method. What we're going to do, we'll have our delayed called, and then before we do our take damage animation, we'll go ahead and play our attack. So we're going to do this, we're going to do our attack manager, and we want to play attack animation. And so inside here, we need to go ahead and provide our animation name. So we're going to do this, our active player monster. So the ones that are attacking, we need to get our attacks and then provide our index. So we'll have our active player attack index. And now we want to go ahead and grab our animation name from that property. After we get our animation name, we need to provide our targets. We're going to do our attack, target, and we're going to do enemy. And then for our callback, we're going to go ahead and put all of our other code inside this callback. So what we'll do is let's go ahead and just copy this block. We'll remove it and paste it inside there. And now we just need to do the same thing for our enemy attack. So if we come down to our enemy attack, we'll go after our delay call. And what we'll do is let's copy that block of code. So we'll do our play attack animation. We'll paste that here. Then outside this code here, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and add our closing bracket for our callback. And now we just want to change this to our active enemy monster. We'll have our attacks, and we're just going to do the first attack. We'll have our animation name, and now our target is the player. All right, so if we actually want to test our changes, let's go into our config. We are going to set this to false for skipping animations. And let's go ahead and test out our new scene. So we'll have our monsters appear. Everything's working. We go into our fight menu. Let's use slash. And now we can see our slash attack plays. Our enemy takes damage. We see our animation. They attack. We see our ice shard animation. Perfect. We flash. We take our damage. And now we come back to our fight menu. Perfect. All right. And so if we do it again, everything should continue to function. All right, so now that we validated our attack manager is working and we can see our attack animations play, that actually brings this video to an end. At our next video, this is going to actually wrap up our battle scene polish, and what we're going to do is we're going to add in some scene transitions. So when our battle scene ends, we're going to add a nice fade effect, and then also when our battle scene starts, we'll have a nice fade in effect. So as a reminder, there is a link in the description of the video to the complete source code for this video. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did enjoy the video, please consider liking the video and hitting the bell icon to be notified when the next video in this series is released. For more great Phaser 3 content, please see some links on your screen now.